The Eurofighter Typhoon in 2026 lives in the uncomfortable space between generations. It's not just a stealth jet, and it's not a brand new, clean sheet design. Yet it keeps showing up at the center of Europe's air power plans because it still delivers what modern air forces can't afford to lose: high-end air-to-air performance combined with real upgrade headroom. The story of the Typhoon is not that it's still good. The story is that Europe has decided it must stay good through modernization packages that reshape the aircraft into a sensor and electronic warfare platform as much as a fighter. That is exactly what Phase 4 Enhancement, the ECRS radars, and Germany's Eurofighter EK path are about. Start with the airframe, because the Typhoon's performance foundation remains one of the best in NATO for a non-stealth fighter. The jet is about 15.96 meters or 52.3 feet long, spans roughly 10.95 meters or 35.9 feet, and stands around 5.28 meters or 17.3 feet tall. Empty mass is around 11,000 kilograms or 24,250 pounds, and maximum takeoff weight is roughly 23,500 kilograms or 51,800 pounds. The delta wing with close-coupled canards generates high lift at high angles of attack and supports aggressive maneuvering while retaining energy. In practical terms, the Typhoon can climb hard, accelerate out of turns, and keep tactical options open when positioning decides the fight. Power comes from two EUROJET EJ200 engines, each delivering around 60 kilonewtons dry and about 90 kilonewtons in afterburner. That thrust and response are central to how the Typhoon fights. Top speed is above Mach 2 at altitude, and the aircraft can supercruise in certain configurations. Sustained supersonic flight without afterburner, often discussed around the Mach 1.2 class, depending on loadout and conditions. Range is sometimes misunderstood because ferry figures get mixed with real combat profiles. With external tanks, ferry range is commonly cited around 2,900 kilometers or 1,800 miles, while a realistic combat radius for many mission profiles sits in the 1,300 to 1,400 kilometer or 800 to 900 miles class, varying with altitude, stores, and time on station. Add air-to-air refueling and the Typhoon becomes what NATO needs in Europe: a fighter that can scramble fast, sprint, climb, take a shot, then stay connected to a wider defensive network. That network is where the 2026 Typhoon becomes a different beast than the early service jet. The modernization push, Phase 4 Enhancement, or P4E, is not just new radar. It is an attempt to keep the aircraft viable into the 2040s and beyond, with long-term planning that reaches toward the 2060 time frame for parts of the fleet. The logic is simple. Airframes can last, but relevance does not. Relevance is sensors, electronic warfare, computing power, and weapons integration, updated fast enough to keep up with threats. The centerpiece is the shift to modern AESA radar families under the ECRS umbrella. Germany and Spain are tied to the ECRS Mk1, while the UK drives the more ambitious ECRS Mk2 route. AESA changes what the radar can do at once: track more targets, resist jamming better, and support simultaneous air-to-air and air-to-ground functions without forcing the pilot to choose one job at a time. But the more important point is what AESA enables in electronic warfare and electronic attack. It's not only about seeing farther, it's about surviving and shaping the fight when the enemy is trying to blind you. ECRS Mk2 is often described as a radar that can also act like an electronic weapon. Instead of only detecting, it can contribute to the electromagnetic battle, complicating enemy radar performance, degrading their ability to build clean tracks, and supporting offensive electronic effects while still functioning as a primary sensor. In 2026, a fighter that cannot contribute to the electronic fight becomes a passenger. A fighter that can jam, deceive, and still prosecute targets becomes a node, something the enemy must respect and plan around. Germany takes that logic further with Eurofighter EK, an electronic combat variant intended to replace the Tornado ECR in the suppression of enemy air defenses mission. This is not a small tweak. SEAD is one of the most demanding jobs in air warfare because it requires operating near the threat, identifying emitters, and neutralizing radar-based systems while staying alive long enough to do it again. Eurofighter EK is meant to bring that capability back with a modern platform and modern tools. The EW core is the Saab Arexis system, designed for wideband detection and jamming using digital techniques. Modern electronic warfare is not just noise, it is precision. It is about identifying emitters, classifying them, and applying tailored jamming or deception fast enough to matter. Arexis is paired with Germany's plan to integrate the AGM-88E ARGM, an advanced anti-radiation missile built to engage radar emitters even when they try to survive by shutting down. That matters because competent air defenses do not sit still. They adapt, go silent, change modes, and try to outthink the attacker. The EK concept is therefore not simply a Typhoon with a missile. It is a Typhoon shaped into a hunter of air defense networks. Cockpit modernization support this transformation because the pilot in 2026 is managing a moving information problem. The large area display concept aims to consolidate data, reduce heads downtime, and make sensor and EW management faster under stress. A modern cockpit is a survivability feature. The less time the pilot spends wrestling the interface, the more time remains for decisions. What is jamming you? Where the threat sector is moving? Which targets matter most? And whether to commit or disengage. The weapon story is where the Typhoon earns its reputation inside NATO. For air-to-air combat, the flagship is Meteor. Meteor's key advantage is sustained energy in the endgame, which expands the zone where an opponent cannot simply turn away and bleed the missile out. Combine Meteor with ASA-quality tracking and you get a fighter that can threaten opponents at serious distances while still retaining the kinematic performance to reposition or survive a countershot. For short-range combat, Iris-T paired with helmet cueing gives the pilot high off-bore sight options that are tactically decisive in close engagements. For strike, the 2026 Typhoon is no longer learning air-to-ground. It is a mature multi-role platform capable of carrying precision-guided bombs and standoff weapons. Operator inventories differ, but the philosophy is consistent. Hit hard without flying directly over the threat. Germany's integration of Taurus KEPD 350 is the clearest example of why the Typhoon remains strategically relevant. Standoff strike changes planning, deterrence credibility, and the options available to commanders and politicians during a crisis. Add modern guided bombs, such as Paveway-class weapons, for flexible precision attack, and you get a jet that can swing from air defense to strike without becoming a single-role specialist. Payload and carriage flexibility matter as much as headline performance. The Typhoon can mount stores across multiple weapon stations, often described as up to 13 hardpoints depending on configuration, with payload in the high single-digit ton range. What matters operationally is the mix. Fuel tanks for endurance, missiles for air control, pods for targeting, pods for electronic warfare, and weapons for strike, combined to match real missions rather than clean brochure loadouts. Now the NATO comparisons, because relevance is always relative. The obvious benchmark is the F-35, and the comparison is less about who wins and more about roles. The F-35 is designed around low observability and deep sensor fusion, built to enter contested airspace, collect and distribute targeting data, and strike while minimizing detection. The Typhoon cannot copy that stealth profile. What it can do is complement it, carry heavier air-to-air loads, provide high-speed defensive counter-air, and act as a high-end contributor in a networked force, especially as its radar and EW modernization matures. In mixed packages, Typhoon can exploit targeting data from stealth assets and add mass, speed, and missile load where stealth fleets may be limited in numbers or tasked differently. Cost is always the painful subject. Unit costs vary by tranche, customer, and support package, but modern new build or heavily upgraded aircraft are often discussed in the broad 90 to 100 million euro range. The more modern, important financial argument in 2026 is life cycle. Modernization keeps the Typhoon viable without forcing a full fleet replacement, which is politically, industrially, and operationally attractive. That is why Germany keeps investing rather than walking away. Germany's role is central to the Typhoon story. In the Luftwaffe, Eurofighter is the backbone of air policing and quick reaction alert. It is what Germany relies on to defend national and NATO airspace, scramble on short notice, identify unknown tracks, escort intruders, and maintain persistent readiness. Beyond day-to-day air defense, Germany's modernization path, especially EK, signals a commitment to rebuilding high-end NATO capabilities that had narrowed after the Cold War. SEED is one of those capabilities. In 2026, investing in Eurofighter EK is a strategic statement. Germany is not only defending its sky, it's preparing to operate in contested environments as part of a coalition force. So what makes the Typhoon outstanding in 2026? It is the combination of three things that rarely coexist. First, a high-performance airframe that still has real kinematic advantages. Second, a modernization pipeline that upgrades sensors and electronic warfare rather than only refreshing the cockpit. Third, a multinational industrial base that keeps the aircraft politically anchored, meaning upgrades, weapons integration, and long-term support are more likely to happen than with a niche platform. Relevance is not a static label. It's a race between threats and upgrades. The Eurofighter stays in that race because it was built with performance headroom and because Europe keeps paying to turn that headroom into capability. The honest conclusion is this: the Eurofighter is not trying to be the F-35. It is trying to be the best possible high-end non-stealth fighter in NATO while evolving into a networked and electronic warfare-capable platform. With P4E driving radar and cockpit evolution, with ECRS radars pushing the jet deeper into the electromagnetic fight, and with Germany's Eurofighter EK adding a true SEED mission built around Arexis and Argom, the Typhoon in 2026 is not living a nostalgia. It is being rebuilt for a new era, one where speed and maneuver still matter, but the invisible war of sensors and jammers decides who gets to use them. What are your thoughts on Eurofighter Typhoon? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to give us a like and subscribe to our channel to get our latest videos straight to your notifications.